All right, guys, I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones, and welcome back to Heel Report, presented by Tar Heel 247.com. And AJ, we're here for another edition of our football preview show. Been a few weeks since we've done this. A lot of talk about football. We probably did more podcast and reporting about football last week than we ever envisioned we would do for a bye week ever. But that's kind of the place and situation Carolina football finds us in right now. Yeah, I know, right?
Actually, football, blocking, tackling, three-point stance. I don't know.
It's funny, too, because, you know, they had the ACC tip-off in Charlotte last week as well. That might as well, in my head, AJ, and probably more so for you, that might as well have been like 2 months ago at this point. Yeah. With all the stuff going on and all the reporting that's been around football and everything. That feels like a distant memory at this point of the week.
I was talking with somebody last night. A friend of mine is doing a dissertation in grad school in Carolina, and she wanted to interview me for something. And I've known her for a few years, and she does some loose stuff with the ACC. And Joel Berry, she's going to interview him for it. And dang it. I always going to say, hey, Joel, talk for a few minutes, kind of catch up. I was so swamped last week, it never crossed my mind. Because other than the time that we spent with Seth and Henry and Hubert, I was doing football the whole time just about, which is pretty wild. It does seem like forever ago.
It does.
And that's kind of the way the season's going. They still have 7 games left. They've only played 5. And I feel like I have been in this football cave with bats flying around, and there are more bats now than before, for seemingly ever. Yeah. We're only 2.5 months into taking over this site, and it's as if I've been here for decades.
It feels like it, yeah.
My white beard should be down to here.
Yeah, you should got to grow it out, man, just in time for Christmas coming up soon. Yeah, it really does. I mean, it's been fascinating.
I fit the other specs for Christmas for the guy with the white beard. I'm getting my steps, but, you know.
Well, it is tough, you know. It doesn't help.
I'm making a joke about myself.
No, I know. It doesn't help when you got to fly out to California and, you know, stay up for 24 hours to cover a football game. But it's good. All Coast Conference, man. Not the ACC anymore.
Yeah,
the All Coast
3 a.m. About 3 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning, you and I will connect and we'll do 3 things.
I've been dreading that kickoff time. Not the game, but the kickoff time since it came out months ago. I will say that. I've told many people that. I don't understand why a 10:30 game makes sense. But again, we just play it like 3 p.m. Call me crazy.
I'm just so glad my wife got me a direct flight to and from. And I had to pay $75 for a window seat. That's the new thing now. I got a lot of traveling coming. I got Salt Lake next week, Syracuse week after that. I got my Fort Myers trip for basketball a couple of days ago. And you used to have to pay like $5 or $10 to choose your seat. Last year, $75 to choose a window seat to fly out. I'm flying into San Francisco.
To be fair, AJ, 75 is the new 15?
Well, the way things are going, I guess so, but it's still 75.
Oh, it's horrible. I'm joking. It's just amazing. It's
150 just to go to and from with a window seat. And that's a hotel night.
Jesus
in Hampton Inn.
What a world we live in.
But I'm going out there, obviously, Cal. That's who the Tar Heels play Friday night, and we're going to get into the Cal game. I'm taking over the Jacob role here for a second.
Yeah, move us on.
I have commandeered the Jacob role. We're going to talk about Cal. We're going to get into it. There's a lot of football stuff, but there are other things we want to get into as well. And the reason I'm doing this is because somebody is typing in midstream, talk about football.
Yeah, there's a couple guys in particular in the YouTube comments that are just railing on us right now. More specifically me, but they know who they are.
They would be so disappointed if we jumped right into Cal's linebackers. They would be so disappointed.
Oh, they'd hate it. They'll hate it. I'll put chapters on this video as I've been doing. So I'm sure I always label the first few minutes intro. So I'm sure a lot of people skip through it, to be fair. I try to help people out with it. But I think I also know there's a lot of people out here that do enjoy us talking about absolutely nothing related to the game this weekend. So, you know, you got to.
It's a Seinfeld portion of the podcast.
Yeah, you got to appease both parties a little bit, get the best of both worlds. But as AJ mentioned, Friday night kickoff, 10:30 p.m. in Berkeley. Cal currently a 10.5-point favorite over the Tar Heels. But AJ, I want to rewind it back to Monday. Monday was very, highly anticipated, is I think a word I called it, press conference because of, again, what we've talked about earlier in this one a few minutes ago, what happened last week during the bye week and all the reports coming out then. So you and Noah were there. You guys did a podcast on it as well. Go check that one out after this one's done. If you haven't seen that, I'm sure a lot of people have because it's been out for a few days at this point. But I'm going to this is one of the first things. I started this job with you about 7 years ago. I shot you a DM on Twitter, and the rest is history. But one of the first things that you ever told me was kind of what your mission statement is here and how you go about covering the team and how you go about not only covering this team, but just your sports journalism career as a whole. And we've talked about this before, so there's a lot of people who've heard this, but just a quick summary on it. Our job is to write and discuss what the program does and says. So we cover Carolina football and basketball. It applies to both of those programs. We base all of our reporting on what the team does and what the team says. So I want to go back and look on Monday because it was a interesting press conference, to say the least. We're going to pull out certain things that were discussed and examine them a little bit more, which is going to help us lead into the California preview of this podcast, which will be later on. But AJ, one of the biggest things Belichick mentioned on Monday, this is one of the bigger quotes I took away from it. It is essentially saying it's been a learning curve. And I think that sparked some questions in our head of, okay, when does that learning curve maybe start? Because I think a lot of people look back and say, well, that learning curve probably started on the first day he took the job. Yeah. You look at the sample size of where this program is at under Belichick so far, and I think you could also sit here and say, well, maybe that learning curve started later on. Maybe there's multiple learning curves that this program and this staff has gone through that has led them to where they are right now. And maybe the learning curve is still ongoing, which I think it is. So I want to discuss that quote first, AJ. What do you make of that? And when it's obvious that there is still a little bit of a learning curve going on. I think the results and the way the program's been ran kind of speak for themselves on that. But when do you think that learning curve started? And do you still think it's ongoing, or you disagree with me on that?
So to give a little deeper context to this, his comments made us look back at previous comments. For example, what he said about spring, they were so much better than the spring. You go back and look to the press conference we had in June, which was the first time we spoke to him after spring practice ended, and he had some pretty complimentary things to say about his team in spring. I
want to discuss that quote later as well. That was on my list because that one does probably the biggest one from that.
Why don't you read the quote now? Because the learning curve to me has to do with the different things that have been said in conjunction with what we've seen on the field. So why don't you go ahead and read that quote?
Okay. Yeah, this is providing some more context. Again, this was said on Monday. Yes. This was said on Monday, this quote in particular, and then we'll kind of look back at some of the summer quotes that kind of go along with this. But he said, our football team's a lot better than it was at the end of spring ball. I can tell you that, end quote. So that is the other kind of context we're talking about.
That's a pretty emphatic statement. And sitting right there when he said it, that's how I immediately received it. Hey, we're so much better. So he's telling us, hey, we're making progress. Guys, we're moving this thing forward. Of course, when you look out there in the field, the naked eye doesn't see anything that's moved forward. In fact, if anything, you saw regression against Clemson. And that's coming off an open date, which he said we got better during the open date. And then you see that. Now, part of that may have been Clemson. Maybe the number 5 team in the country finally showed up, the preseason number 5. Who knows? But there are some other quotes, too, when you think about the connection to spring. And I think that, and this is an open discussion, and I want to know what people think as well, legitimately think about this, because where are we supposed to draw the line, the starting point for the learning curve? Because in a way, before you start learning, don't you have to accumulate? When you go sign up for class in college, okay, I'm going to take Psych 101. Well, then you go get your books. And you get whatever materials you need. And let's say the syllabus says you're going to read this book during the course of it. You're going to read that book. You're going to do this lab, whatever the case is. You have to go get that stuff. Then you sit down and say, okay, here are my tools for the Psych 101 class. Now I must begin learning. So to me, was spring practice and both portal sessions about gathering the tools to begin learning? So did the learning really start in August, which I've kind of hinted at before? I thought maybe it did. Maybe it started after TCU because they recognized that night some personnel decisions were really off. So where does it start? Is it starting now? Was last week's chaos finally something that shook the tree enough that some people said, okay, it is not working, because the word arrogance has been thrown out there 1,000 times. And I understand why. There is a lot of arrogance there. Okay, you're highly successful. You're going to be arrogant. But maybe in this sphere, the college space, if you will, those are two words people love throwing out now, the sphere and space. Maybe that shook the tree enough that this is the beginning of the learning curve. That they recognized, okay, we really were terrible in the spring because we didn't know what we were looking at. Everything was so new and different. Even in August, once again, some of the decisions they made, the things, some of the messaging, all that, right up to Lombardi's ridiculous rebuild email to the donors. And doing it on a 1912 typewriter, which no way. So he got white out when he was a typo? I mean, come on. So
I like how a typewriter sounds, but that's about as far as I go with it.
Look, I think old typewriters are cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
My wife loves cameras. She thinks old cameras are cool. I do too. I think that stuff's cool. But come on, man. I mean, again, the lack of awareness is so off the charts at times.
Yeah, man, 2025, we don't need to be using a typewriter.
But more specifically, and to our point, where did or does the learning curve start? Because they've now accumulated all kinds of information. A lot of it is not good in terms of they're not positives, but that's okay if you learn from it. There's nothing wrong with screwing up if you learn from it. I've screwed up 1,000 times in my life, and I've learned from most of it. Sometimes I still make the same mistakes. Don't use my phone texting, my typing with a thumb as one of those. I'll never get any good at that because it's just – Lord said, son, eventually there will be phones you can type on. And you can reach out to the masses through those phones someday deep into your life, and you're going to be a horrible thumb typer on that device. So yeah. I've accepted that. I've accepted that reality. There's no learning curve there. It's just what it is. Mm-hmm. But there are learning curves and other things. So I want to know, when did it start? When does it start? Are they in the learning curve now? Because he mentioned learning curve. Mm-hmm. And he told us that he said Monday how bad they were in the spring, or how much better they are now than in the spring. Well, they're rotten now, so obviously they were really bad in the spring.
Yeah, that quote.
But June 10th, he told us that spring was great.
Yes.
June 10th, we have the quote somewhere.
I can read it. Do you want me to read it real quick?
Yeah, why don't you read it real quick?
I'll paraphrase it. I won't read it.
Hear his words and not my words about what he said.
Yeah, I'm going to paraphrase this just so I don't sit here reading a quote for 20 minutes. But essentially, this is from the June 10th press conference that AJ mentioned. He says, I think the improvement really was across the board. So better communication, better fundamentals, better understanding of what we're trying to do. And then he also went into talking a little bit about conditioning and understanding the offensive and defensive systems better and all that stuff. But I think the key quote there is better communication, better fundamentals, and better understanding of what we're trying to do. And again, this was back in the summer.
Fundamentals, man.
Would you say this is a good fundamental football team?
No.
The spring quote to me, AJ, was the most. It was probably the one that caught my eye the most on Monday. And I'm going to read it one more time. And I know we've already read it, but I want to put it out there again. Our football team's a lot better than it was at the end of spring ball. I can tell you that. That was the quote when I was reading the transcript and listening back to it, where I was like, hold up. Hold on a second. He's saying we are a lot better than we were in the spring. So my mind, like anybody's normal brain would do, is you would go and say, okay, well, they're like statistically one of the worst teams in the country right now. They've been blown out in every Power 4 game they've played in. Their starting quarterback, they paid multiple $1 million to come in and play, has looked far from a quarterback that can play at this level. The only time that Max Johnson's really got in is because Gio Lopez has got hurt. I could just give you all this list of reasons Carolina's been bad this year. So I think the normal person goes, well, good Lord, how bad were they in the spring?
Am I
crazy for thinking that's a wild quote?
No, and one of our jobs is also to be fair and balanced.
Yes.
So I don't want people to think we're piling on. We're asking an open-ended question to which there is no answer.
AJ, he literally said that.
But we're basing it on what he said, and we're using some of the performance on the field as part of this conversation too, because it's inescapable. However, in fairness, and by the way, I was one in the media that defended him 2 weeks ago when he went to Nantucket. Because I knew Friday night, one of our guys in the network saw him at the high school football game. And
I was going to say.
I tried to explain to people in the open week, when you have a bye week, your team practices Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then they're let out. And everybody can go home, they can do whatever, and they kind of come back late Sunday afternoon, evening for practice. So he went away. Mac used to go to his cabin in Linville sometimes. I don't know if Larry ever went anywhere with Christy. Maybe some guys just stay there. So that he got pummeled for that unnecessarily.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and you need to take a load off. In fact, that week, Brian Murphy asked a great question about, or was the week before, about mental health and coaches, because it was after Sean Clark died. And you could say stress could have played a role, because stress plays a role with a lot of this stuff, right? And Bill talked about the need sometimes to step back. You got to know when you got to step back, which is the main reason why I left THI, because I didn't have the opportunity to ever step back. In this job, I work almost as much, but I've found ways to step back some, so it's healthier. Anybody needs that, whatever they do. Everybody needs that. So I defended him in that part. Now, in fairness, right now, they did not build a great roster for the spring because they got into the portal late last December. And at one point, someone connected to the program told me they're just throwing dudes at the wall to see who sticks. Mm-hmm. I get that. And I appreciate the position that they were in. The problem is they still ran off guys, and they ran them off. That could have helped them win. Could have helped them be more competitive.
They didn't have to completely rebuild the roster.
They ran off some guys that they didn't replace.
AJ, they didn't have to. They didn't have to do that either. They didn't have to.
No, but how are they? Okay, let's say from a personnel standpoint, are they better right now than they were in the spring? Okay, the two guys that jump off the board that left in the spring are who? Bo.
Yep.
Maury, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now we've got a list here. I'm going to read. I usually don't look away and read, but they got a list here of the players they brought in from the portal in the spring. Okay. Nathan Leacock, wide receiver. He's barely played. Andrew Simpson, excellent pickup. Mm-hmm. Tamir Hitman-Collins, linebacker from Florida State, hasn't really gotten – a lot of these guys have gotten mop-up duty because they have not had a close game yet.
Yep.
There's been no theater in the fourth quarter of any of their games. No. So a lot of guys who are like third and fourth string have gotten on the field. Tight end Jordan Owens from Central Arkansas, he's played a little bit, not much. Linebacker Jonathan Agamadu from Oklahoma State, he's barely played one snap, I think, the other day. Shamir Easter, the tight ends, played some. Gregory Smith, not really. I think he has an interception late in the Charlotte game because he played like the last 10 defensive snaps. Christian Dunbar Hawkins, the defensive back, he's not played. Ja'Kai Moore, the offensive lineman from South Carolina, who started the last game. Gannon Burt, a long snapper, no. Will Osteen was supposed to be pretty good when he came in. Wasn't getting on the field until injuries hit. I think Isaiah Johnson, the defensive tackle from Arizona, has been a nice pickup. He's a solid rotation piece. Same thing with DeAndre Robinson. DeAndre Robinson's got a significant upside. He's a guy who could play himself into a Sunday league dude. Could. So I think he was a nice pickup too. Joseph Mapoy from Penn State is not really getting on the field. He's got a few snaps. Offensive lineman Jordan Hall from UAB is not playing. Dayton Sneed, wide receiver, not playing. Benjamin Hall, four-string running back. Got him Wednesday as part of the interviews, but he's four-string running back for most of the year. Gio Lopez, it's not worked. Place kicker Reese Verhoff, that worked. I think he's been pretty solid. Punter Jacob Horvath, nobody listening knows who he is. Wide receiver Adrian Wilson, nobody listening knows who he is. Linebacker Mekhi Bayer, the kid from Nebraska by way of Missouri. Like you said earlier, you were talking about, hey, the Richmond game was pretty nice.
Yeah.
He's a decent player, but it's not like they significantly upgraded. If you look at what they lost, and they've lost a few other guys to the portal. I'm not going to get into all that. I don't have every name in my head. But they didn't enhance a whole lot. They got a good linebacker. They got two solid defensive tackles. And I think the defensive line has been one area of the team that's been better than any of us projected. They've been better. They haven't been real good, but they've been better. And then you're looking at Verhoff. And Gio's a starter, but he's only left the game because of injury. Otherwise, he would have taken every snap. Mm-hmm. So that means guy, you should have seen us in the spring. So that means coaching. So he's saying the coaching's better and the guys have learned more. They've been able to align that up. If you go to August, they made personnel decision mistakes in August. Their starting running back for TCU is no longer playing football. And it was an injury. And he probably just tired. I get it, man. Caleb has been through a lot. Caleb Hood's a good dude.
Yeah, really
like good dude. Good dude. I've always felt so bad for him because I remember when Dina King used to talk about Caleb Hood's going to be one of the best players in this class. And she loved him and he was graded as a quarterback in high school, but everybody knew he wasn't going to play quarterback in college. He just banged up. If he was never banged up, I think he could have had a really good college career. But that obviously wore him out. But he was still the starter at TCU. All right. Now the starter is a guy that was 7th on the depth chart that night. And I know I've said this a few times, and people are going to say I'm repeating myself, but it's worth repeating.
Yeah.
Okay. The starting offensive tackle that night, buried on the depth chart now. I think, and so we're speaking about learning curve. They gave us Alex Taylor. I was told by the program, if we got a player for interviews in August, that meant that they were really caught the coach's eyes. Alex Taylor didn't play. It's like 5 snaps or whatever it was against Clemson. He's been jumped over. So they were giving us guys that are suddenly not playing and not helping or gone. Mm-hmm. So I ask if that's just intel, and each couple of weeks is a pile of intel that goes into this massive, giant mountain of information. Yeah, cauldron of information. And last week with the shakeup about everything that's away from football and there's everything with football because they got rattled again on the field, maybe the learning curve starts now. Mm-hmm. A learning curve now is a great message because it's sort of like the new beginning. All right, guys, we really screwed up, and Belichick's never going to say that, but they have. They've screwed up on and off the field big time. Yeah. But I think a lot of people, if he were to just use those words and say, guys, we have made a ton of mistakes here. This has been a much bigger transition than we thought from personnel, because every time they watch, some people say, they've been watching college film for decades. They watch college film, 1 or 2 players trying to look at them in terms of how they translate to the NFL. They haven't been watching college film for the purpose of college film. It's a different deal. So if he would have said all that, we made some mistakes behind the scenes here. We're learning about how you do relationships at this level. If they would have come out and said all that, I think a lot of people said, you know what? All right, it has sucked beyond comprehension to this point, but let's give it a shot. Let's let the learning curve take place. The guy didn't stumble his way into 6 Super Bowls. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
But they didn't. But the messaging didn't really say that. It was very, very, very lukewarm in that direction, and didn't fully come out that way. And I think, as us who cover the team on an hourly basis, we're 24/7. That's why we're 24/7. We're Tar Heel 24/7. We're literally 24/7. That would have given us an opportunity to say, okay, we're going to step back and we're going to gauge progress from this moment forward. That's how we're going to cover the team. But they didn't do that. Now, I'm going to try to do that. When I'm in Berkeley Friday night, I'm going to look for progress. And even if they lose by a couple of touchdowns, if I see clear areas of progress, we're going to pull it out and we're going to slap it on the table and say, here you go. But we got to see it. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. They've had the press conference with the support system, with the chancellor and both ADs, if you will, and BOT people and everybody else that were there. They can't recreate that press conference again. So if the other stuff hits again and they're still losing, you can't go learning curve in any way, shape, or form. This is sort of has to be it. So if we're willing to give them the benefit of the doubt and say the learning curve starts now, I'm happy covering them that way moving forward. But there has to be noticeable differences moving forward as well.
There has to be progress. There absolutely has to be.
My wife for bringing me a water.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Shout out to Kim for that.
Point to the passer.
I was about to say point to the passer on that. She deserves that. That's fantastic stuff from her. But yeah, there has to be progress. And that's why that's why that quote really stood out to me, is because, as I said earlier, you're paying a guy a lot of money, a guy that knows a thing or two about football, the guy that's widely considered the greatest, football coach of all time, especially at the pro level. So when our job is to talk about and write about what the program does and says, I'm going to take that at face value from Bill Belichick. We are a lot better than we were during the spring. And I'll give, as you mentioned, he did preface before that a little bit. We had a late start and didn't get to sign as many guys in the spring, all that stuff. That's fine. That's great. The problem
is it's true. And by the way, it's true.
And that's fine. That's
by the
fine.
time they got started rolling their sleeves up in the portal, a lot of good dudes were gone. So that is
AJ,
true.
I've seen, and I'm not trying to pile on. Everything we are talking about now is on the field stuff. Everything we talked about last week had nothing to do with the product on the field that's been atrocious this year. Everything we've talked about so far on this podcast, AJ, is about the product we're witnessing on the field. And as I said to you last week, I asked everybody on here because I think this is getting lost a little bit. What is the only reason Bill Belichick was brought in, guys? It's to win football games. That's the only reason he's here. That's it.
Well,
it's the only reason any coach at any level, high level of sport, pros, college, whatever, their number one objective is to win. And when you're not doing that, and when you're coming out on a Monday press conference when all the attention's on you and you're like, man, should have seen us in the spring. It's like, whoa, dude, y'all built this roster. This is y'all.
Let me clarify very quickly. We're also talking about messaging.
Yes, and messaging
is about the field. The messaging is about the field.
And the messaging has to be accurate because there is a lot of fans right now that are disillusioned about what's going on right now.
Okay, but let's say this. Let's say Monday was the first day of accurate messaging since they took over.
Okay.
Which, again, I'm not being overly critical. I'm just being fair because things have not lined up. They haven't lined up since day one.
The communication has been it's been confusing.
If you're in our position, I mean, I liked some things, and I said in August, boy, every time I come away from talking to Belichick, I feel like this has a better chance of working.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that
because I gave them so much props for him talking to us every week. We got him like 6 times in August. That's more, I think, than we got Mac last year in August.
AJ, I said they were going to finish 8-4.
So he was embracing certain realities about this role. So I do think the recognition part was happening, but the learning curve, to me, a learning curve has to be a smoother process in which you are armed with a mission. A learning curve just can't carry them off the walls. Yeah, I learned this, but I'm making this mistake as I crash on the wall over here. To me, a learning curve has to be like a highway. A highway with no stoplights, and you're going to hit cruise control at 55, and you're going to go through the process of learning. It's going to be a consistent basis. I don't know how much that's happened or if it's happened. I think last week was a bottoming out. The fact that after 5 games in his career at Carolina, he had to release a 12-word statement, which basically said nothing, but it also said something. I asked him Monday, why did you release the statement? Well, felt like I needed to say something. Okay, well, was it your idea or was it the school's because it was a joint statement with Bubba, total 25 words, my decision. So that right there is acknowledgement that something wasn't right and a big picture wasn't right. So perhaps the learning curve started when he wrote that message, that statement, and had that conversation with Bubba and Lee Roberts and whoever else he had the conversation with, Brendan Faber, saying, okay, guys, we need to do something because the blank has hit the fan and we are covered in it. So how do we begin the process of digging out of this? Well, you got to have a show of support press conference. They did that. You got to acknowledge some things in the very minimal way he did it, which is probably Belichick-esque. And we're seeing that for the first time here, and they know it all too well up in Boston. He did that. He also mentioned learning curve. Okay, so let's say moving forward, Monday's the learning curve. He also said they made a lot of progress the week before in practice. While all this crap's going on, we're getting the fundamentals sorted up that much more. So now they have to back it up on the field. Now it becomes the next 7 games. Your learning curve, don't screw up with your messaging. Don't send another dumb email that is baseless to the people that you asked for money for to make this happen when you told them, hey, Hulu's great because we're going to win. Let's go ahead and bring back and do video clips of every great Tar Heel in the past because we're trying to tell everybody this is what we're going to be. And then 6 weeks later, send an email to them saying, pump the brakes on everything we've said for 10 months. You got to get your messaging straight. But more important than that right now, I think they've got to get the on-field play straight. They can have crappy messaging or bad messaging. And if they go to Berkeley and they win 30-7, and they're getting off the field on third down, and if they run the ball, and Cal's 124th in the country in running, and they don't give up a big run game to the Bears, and they play polished football like Indiana. My brother went to Indiana. I texted him the other day 4 times. I said, this is the most polished team I've seen in a while. Carolina is not a polished team. But let's say they start to play polished football. They win that game. They're competitive with UVA and they lose. They go to Syracuse, doesn't have a quarterback, and they steal a win. They come home against Stanford. They beat them because they should beat Stanford. And then they lose to Wake, Duke, and State because they're better teams. But if they're able to snag 3 wins and they don't get blown out and they look like the fundamentals that he constantly brings up are actually connecting with the players, we have a different conversation at the end of November. And maybe some of the stuff that's come out doesn't come out as frequently. Now, the source stuff has slowed down. Part of that's because we push back. But a lot of people can believe the learning curve. That might be the line of demarcation. Here's when the program really started. So they had to take 500 steps backwards to take however many steps forward that they think they're going to take moving ahead or that they might take. That's one way to look at it. I'm not saying that is it, but if you want to be fair, if you want to throw a little optimism in the direction of the program right now and give them the benefit of the doubt, I think what I just said does that.
Just start winning.
Yeah.
It's the reason you're here to begin with. I mean, you're not here because you send out great emails and have great press conferences.
I trust and respect your opinion implicitly. You know your stuff. You've been around with me. You've been with me for what, 8 years, 7 years?
Yeah, almost 8. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I took this job, the first 2 people I wanted coming with me, you're right there. I mean, you've been with me for a long time.
I appreciate
it. So what do you think? Do you think that there's potential merit to what I just said? And it's all potential, because I'm not going to put a flag in the soil on this at all, because there's really nothing to put a flag in the soil about right now, other than they've been terrible on the field and they've been terrible off the field.
I think that's the problem, is like, I agree. Your premise, essentially what you're kind of saying right there is, and I've said this quote many times, and this is one of my favorite, I think one of the truest statements you can make, particularly in sport, especially in sports: winning solves everything. And it's a little bit, it's not 100% true, but really, if Carolina starts winning football games, they win the next 5 games, a lot of this talk goes away. It just does. Because the guy that you brought in to take your program forward, take that next step, and most importantly, win football games at the end of the day, starts doing that, then a lot of that pressure kind of leaves a little bit. So I agree with what you're saying there. I think the problem is where we are right now. What we know is this is not a very good football team. This is factually a football team that is on course, as we've talked about before, to potentially be the worst in program history. And guys, this is not a program that is, lit it up over the last 50 years, put it that way.
No.
So that's what we know. So everything that we're basing of like, well, maybe Belichick will turn around. Maybe this team goes to Cal and puts together a performance. And like you said, they win 30-7. Maybe the following week they go in and they beat Virginia, and then they go, turn it around, and they've got some momentum, and man, they go up to Syracuse on Halloween and they beat them. The problem is what we know is here. A lot of negatives there. Yeah. Everything that I just said there and you alluded to is what? It's hypotheticals.
Yeah. I said maybe.
No, I know. And you're saying this is going to happen. I know you are not.
I'm just clarifying. The word maybe is a massive nothing. Mm. It's a word that clarifies what I'm saying here. I'm only just throwing out a hypothetical.
Yes.
I'm not saying I believe this is where it is.
Yes.
I could also add to this. The other part of this discussion is, has too much damage already been done?
I think you can easily make an argument for that.
Look, I told you some stuff before we hit record, right? I told you about conversations I've had with people who know what the hell is going on, right?
Yeah.
Not just there, but there's connections. There are people in the media that know a lot of people. There's a lot of phone numbers in this phone, and other dudes in the media that I've talked to the last couple of days who have a lot more phone numbers in their phone. And there's a lot of strong opinions about where it is right now, and that it's not fixable, that there ultimately is no solution, that it's just a matter of time. I talked to somebody yesterday who knows people who, in a roundabout way, and I'm trying not to connect dots that get me in trouble, there's a line into the Belichick world, the little circle,
yeah.
Put it that way. And they have a fair idea, and they don't think it's going to, they think it's over. And I, as a journalist and knowing these people well, am asking, like, why? Why do they think so? I'm just not taking the blanket statement saying, okay, what's over? I want to know, like, what has triggered them when they're not around the program daily like we are to think that? Mm-hmm. What is triggering them saying it either privately, and some have said it publicly. Like Rick Neuheisel said something very publicly, and he's part of our network. He's CBS Sports. But he said he won't finish. He'll finish his career at North Carolina. But he didn't say he's out now. But I wonder if Neuheisel would say off the record, he's done in a few weeks. He's done in a month and a half, whatever the case may be. I think a lot of people are close to saying that, and privately are saying it, but publicly won't. I need to make some more phone calls. And these are just things to get a gauge on people outside of where we are, people I respect, just to see how they view this. Because you got your flamethrowers that generate a lot of stuff. You've got a lot of radio guys like Dan Patrick who have like Pat Welter on. And you've got, I haven't heard what Jim Rome said. I haven't heard what Colin Coward said. I don't really listen to a lot of that kind of stuff. I do listen to Sirius XM College Sports Radio and ACC Radio when I'm in the car. But I don't go seek a lot of things out when I'm sitting here in the office working because I've got so much to do. I don't have time. And the other thing is I don't want to let a lot of other people's public reports affect how I approach things. Now, we see stuff on Twitter, and if something's happening, we see if we can get it confirmed. Mm-hmm. Last week, we debunked a couple of things. One thing, the buyout stuff has been kind of weirdly attached to us, which we never wrote about a buyout at all. The only thing we wrote about a buyout was that it's not true. So it's very interesting. And these conversations have been fascinating because, Jacob, I told you about one person in particular, and you know who it is, and they have tremendous credibility. And it's not intel that they're providing. It's stuff that they know, and they're using it for their opinion. They don't think it's going to last. They don't think it's going to last a season. And it's fascinating to hear him say that. I'm not in position really. I guess I am in position to say if I think it's going to last a season or not. I did go out several days ago, and we as a staff have done this because I sort of represent us. We're covering the season, the next 7 games as the next 7 games.
100%.
But I do think a fair way to look at it, if we want to take Belichick 1,000% his word, the learning curve, I will go ahead and vote Monday as the beginning of the learning curve, just for the sake of coverage and how we process things. Because if we look at this as just straight football and they don't play that well and they get beat, then it's really easy to write one article hammering them, point a few things out, and then fly home. Yeah. But if you want to get involved in covering a possible learning curve, there's a lot more to detail than just that. Mm-hmm. You have to pull the layers back. Mm-hmm. And say, okay, were they really better against Cal than Clemson? Well, it's kind of hard to compare Cal and Clemson because Clemson's better. Cal's been pretty bad its last few games, but still has a win over Minnesota by 13 points. That's not a bad win. So that's probably how I'll approach it. But if they lose 40-6, that learning curve stuff won't show up. No. And that comes back down to what you're saying. In the end, it's about the result. Yeah, exactly. And we'll move on to the preview in a second, but just to kind of summarize how I feel about it, I think this is what you're saying too, is if you look at 5 games in, if you look at the entire body of evidence, there's this huge thing right here where we can look at all the evidence that we can look at. The evidence to suggest, hey, this probably isn't going to work out the way Carolina fans want it to and the way the administration wanted it to when they hired him. There's a lot of tangible evidence you can look at to suggest that. If we were to come on here and make a case of no, guys, this is why it's going to work out, 99.9% of those reasons will be solely based on hypotheticals, not evidence. And I think that's where we're at right now. We would have rocks for brains to say that too. Yes. So we can come on here and speculate and say, well, I got a feeling they're going to go to Cal and get a good win. But that would be a hypothetical. There's not tangible evidence that I can really point to that gives me any confidence that Carolina is going to go out to California and win. There's just not. We all go on our gut sometimes, right? Yeah. That's not even a gut instinct. There's no gut that would go there. That's the thing is like, that is kind of the problem.
But AJ, that's kind of the problem of where we're at is when you pay a guy this much money to come in, a guy that is a fantastic football coach. He's proven at the level. He knows how to coach football, obviously.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have as many Super Bowl rings if he didn't know how to do that. But when we're kind of 5 games in and there's all this off the field stuff going on that we consistently have to cover and talk about, and the fact that this team is just struggling on the field so much, and we're sitting here and we're saying, man, like, there's not really any evidence I can point to suggest this ship's going to turn around and this thing's going to take off and they're going to, Carolina's going to start winning football games and Belichick's going to take this program to the next step. There's nothing I can point to for that. So for me to come on a podcast and be like, well, AJ, I think Belichick's going to turn this thing around. I don't have any evidence to suggest that, and that will be solely me speculating. And that's kind of the problem of where we're at right now.
That goes back to a term I've used a lot lately. There's wishful sourcing, which was starting to happen last Wednesday evening and Thursday, which is why I backed away.
Yeah,
I want nothing to do with wishful sourcing. And there's also wishful reporting and wishful prognosticating. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's saying that is doing so because they wish it would happen. Mm-hmm. There's no legitimate tangibles right there that would lead you to believe it. So what I'm going to dub this game, we're getting into Cal here.
Yeah,
what I'm going to dub this game is the learning curve game. Mm-hmm. If the learning curve is underway, if it's launched, in the Flintstones, when they do their feet to try to get the car going, okay, that's done. The car is now starting to move. That's the learning curve. All right. You got Barney back there. You got Bam Bam, right? They could use a couple of Bam Bams on this team, couldn't they?
Yeah.
More Bam Bams. They need some Bam Bams. God, if they had a roster of Bam Bams. That guys you stole lunch money in elementary school. That'd be the perfect roster, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If the learning curve is truly on a course of some kind, we will see evidence Friday night.
Yes, we will see evidence. And if it's not, we'll be talking on 3 things that God knows what
so
time
much
in the
for the learning curve.
Yeah, so much for the learning curve.
And I think that's ultimately has to determine what decision makers think. Because they got a mountain of evidence about, this is not who we are. Mm-hmm. And now it comes down to football.
Yeah.
By them all being there and by the statements coming out, and I know that there's a lot of reasons behind the scenes for a lot of this stuff. Make it about, right now it's about football. So let's just judge them about football unless something else comes out. And I do hear stuff every day, by the way.
Oh, I know you do.
And I just, okay. I mean, I'm not into that.
No.
If we could not be into it, if it's legit, we have to be into it, right?
Yeah.
I just want to laser focus on this football team. I cannot wait to get in the press box Friday night. I'm going to look out there with my binoculars to see who's dressed, who made the trip, see if there's any injuries. We're going to look at Gio. We saw Gio in the Keating Football Center a couple of days ago. I didn't notice a big limp or anything like that. Didn't even notice a limp. We have no idea. We're going to look and see what that is. And I'm going to cover the game to cover a football game with the idea of a possible learning curve in mind. Mm-hmm. That's how I'm going to cover it. That's how I'm going to squeeze information from it. And that's probably going to be the tenor of my column afterward. I'm just guessing. Of course, you know how it happens. You show up, the game occurs, and whatever you thought going in, you tear it up and you do something different when you come out.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But that's sort of my thinking right now. And I cannot wait to get there to Friday. I am. I love these games.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to get there Friday night. It's a great stadium, Cheapskate Hill. If it's clear and you turn around, you can see across the bay, San Francisco, the skyline.
That's pretty sick.
It's gorgeous. It's a great campus, great area. If you love Chinese food, there's like 15 carry-out Chinese places on their version of Franklin Street. Mm. And if you like protest stuff, you got protest poles, man. There's 9,000 protest signs. And you know what? If you like beatnik music and a guy with a guitar, think of Dobie Gillis for the really old people. I mean, that was old for me. I used to watch the reruns. Think of these guys, these speakeasies or these guys in the coffee shops doing poetry. I mean, that's Berkeley, guys. And that's cool because it's unique to them. So I'm going to go experience all that, go check all that stuff out, go into that beautiful stadium of theirs in that beautiful setting with that beautiful Cal logo. I love that logo. Mm-hmm. And let's look at if North Carolina's football team under the direction of Bill Belichick is truly embarked in some kind of learning curve.
Yeah, it'd be amazing how quickly the narrative would shift if Carolina wins the next 3 games. It really would be. Things would change. The narrative would change, and rightly so, because the product on the field is getting better, and Carolina and Bill Belichick are winning football games, which is the only reason he's there in the first place, as I've said for the 1000th time. Yeah.
Would it shift if they lose 28-21?
Ultimately, no.
The worst team in program history doesn't lose a Power 4 road game 28-21. They would lose it by a much wider margin. So I think first might be getting that discussion off the table, right?
Yeah, I think ultimately it would maybe shift it a little bit of like, well, but here's the problem, AJ. If it shifts the narrative, what does the narrative go from? Well, at least they were competitive.
Look, Carolina fans have not been able to parse over a play that screwed us in the game. Like, you cannot point to the refs and blame anything on them yet, because they've either won by big margins or lost by big margins.
AJ, every P4 game they played has been over by what, halftime?
Done. Fork.
So it's even like, yeah, let's say they go lose 28-21. I mean, sure, I could be like, yeah, they were a little more competitive, but the problem is would still go on the podcast and be like, well, they were competitive at least. And it's like, is that where we're at right now? It kind of with a team. It just kind of depends what you want this thing to be, I guess. You know,
Cal's last 3 games, 34-0 loss at San Diego State, which shocked me. Because I watched a good bit of the Cal Minnesota game. I watched a good bit of the Cal Oregon State game. I had no idea at the time Oregon State was a train wreck, and they fired their coach. Wake just beat the snot out of them the other day.
They went to App State and lost.
Yeah, and they beat somebody else, an HBCU maybe, an FCS team, and then they beat Minnesota. Then they go to San Diego State and lose 34-0. Now, they did give up like 2 or 3 defensive touchdowns in the game, so the line of scrimmage, it wasn't as bad as the score, but it was still bad. 34-0 is 34-0. They go to BC and pick up a solid road win, a game that they almost lost. At the time, I didn't really know if BC was that bad yet.
Yeah,
now BC is pretty bad. I mean, they did the same thing with Clemson the other day that Carolina did. And then they come home, and they got Duke 21-7 in the second quarter. You're like, man, Berkeley's going to molly to no Weisskopf, point to the passer, mollywop the Tar Heels, and then Duke closes them out 38-0.
Yeah.
So you lose to a team like that, 28-21. Maybe given how the Heels have played, you might be able to find some scraps for sure. To hang your hat on, say, okay, this is okay. If they get pounded by a team like this, I think it washes away the Monday press conference. I think it washes away the support. But let's wait.
Yeah.
Not jump too far ahead, because we have to see how it plays out.
100%.
40-6 is 40-6. 28-21 is 28-21. How does it occur? How much of a chance? Are they down 28-7? They score 2 late TDs? Or is it they have a 21-14 lead, they blow it? I mean, what can they gain from it? I cannot wait, because I cannot wait to compartmentalize all those little things.
Yeah, and have a little bit more evidence to kind of figure out what's going on here and what this Belichick regime and experiment, as I like to call it, is maybe going to be. Is it going to continue to trend in this negative direction that has a lot of tangible evidence to suggest it is going to keep going in that way? Or is there a massive turnaround and, all this speculating or hypotheticals that we're talking about come to fruition? And then there's evidence to point that, hey, maybe this thing can work out. We'll learn a little bit more on Friday night, as we continue to kind of evaluate and cover this P-word ongoing process that is going on throughout the season.
It's only a process if the learning curve is underway.
Yes.
Because a process means that there's something stable behind the mission. And it hasn't looked that way so far. It's been like one of those old video games like Asteroids, which stuff's just flying all over the place.
Yeah.
One another. Every once in a while you shoot something, a lot of times you get blasted by it.
It's hard to kind of figure out.
I've been aging myself a ton in this show.
Yeah, it's all right. You do that a lot. It's fun though. You know what I mean? There's a lot. We have some good people around your age watching this too that they'd enjoy that. I did see someone in the comments.
Some people clinging on to the end of life, huh?
Yeah, there's someone in our comments recently, and shout out to this guy. He's like, man, I love AJ's analogies and his stories and stuff like that. So there's people that definitely like it for sure, man. You know what I mean?
I'm sure he's already retired. So.
But AJ,
I'm not that old. I like to make fun of the thing, but I also have an older brother and sister, so I used to see stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like 3. So
yeah. You didn't really have a choice when you got older siblings like that. Let's wrap this up talking a little bit more specifically about Cal here. I'm just going to go through some quick stats on them, right, where they kind of rank in the ACC in some categories, and then we'll do our predictions at the end. Number 6 defense in the league, allowing about 129 yards per game. I was surprised by these stats coming up because when you think Cal a little bit, you kind of think, if you think of the quarterback and you think, well, they got a pretty good offense, right? I mean, they got this freshman quarterback who's kind of been talked about putting up some really good numbers. Let's see, what are they offensively? Well, third to last in the ACC in total offense, averaging about 351 yards per game. To just compare it to Carolina, Carolina's dead last, albeit they have played one less game in the league right now with 263.8 yards. So the significant difference between those two. And then rushing offense, this surprised me as well. Third to last in rushing offense, just 96.7 yards per game. Comparing that to North Carolina, UNC is only one space above, averaging 102.2 yards. So I kind of dove into it. I'm like, okay, maybe JKS let me say this real quick. I watched a video before I hopped on here trying to just figure out how to pronounce their quarterback's name.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try.
I think I got it, but we're just going to call him JKS because I probably don't have it, if you know what I'm talking about.
I call him the guy who beat out the Ohio State transfer. That's what I call him.
Yeah.
By the way, Justin Wilcox, their head coach, is a defensive guy.
Yeah.
And Ron Rivera is their GM, defensive guy. And for the record, Justin Wilcox is 2-0 against North Carolina. His first ever game as head coach was a 35-30 win in Chapel Hill in 17. The next year, Carolina opened out there. That's why I know what the press box and all that stuff was like, because I was at that game. Carolina lost 24-17. I remember the post-game press conference. Larry Fedora was sitting at a old wooden card table that was all chipped up on the edge, and part of it snagged his sleeve. Like, come on.
That's fantastic.
Everything was so funny for the Tar Heels that day that Larry's beautiful Carolina blue shirt got snagged.
Yeah, that nice drop.
So Justin Wilcox has beaten Carolina. He is a defensive guy. Rivera's a defensive guy. They're not bad defensively. They got some really physical linebackers. Carolina's going to have a tough time running the ball between tackles. They're going to have to throw the ball and move the chains, and you're going to have to hit on some big plays. The ugly numbers that we can recite till the cows come home about the Tar Heels, I think, begin with a couple of things. Number one, they've only completed, I believe it's 18 passes this season on balls thrown more than 10 yards in the air past the line of scrimmage. 18. They're going to have to complete 7 or 8, I think, to beat Cal.
Yeah.
Number two, of 49 possessions they've had that did not end a half, only 14 times have they gone more than 40 yards. 5 of those are in total mop-up duty. So the key for Carolina to have any chance to win this game, move the chains, and then do it enough that if you hit on a 25-yarder here or there, it puts you in scoring position and you get some kind of points. They got to score touchdowns, but they got to score some kind of points. I don't know how prolific Cal's offense can be even against Carolina's defense. Carolina's defense has been better, a lot better than the offense. And it has been okay in stretches against decent teams. It's just not consistently. If the defense shows up and says, okay, we're going to play 4 quarters, and they do that, the offense still has to find ways to score points. So they've got to move the chains, and they're going to have to do it dinking and dunking and going over every once in a while. They don't have to go way over the top of the defense. They don't have to take the top off, but they've got to hit some big chunk passing plays, 20 plus, 25 plus, 30 in that range. This is the kind of game where if Carolina wins, Jordan Shipp's going to have like 12 receptions for 120 yards and like 8 first downs and a touchdown. This is that kind of game. That's the kind of performance they need. You don't give up on the run, but this might be a chuck it game. Which
I'm even less confident Carolina wins. I'm even less confident Carolina wins.
Because of what I just said?
Yeah, because of what you just said.
See, and what I'm saying,
coming back to hypotheticals and evidence, the evidence suggests, well, we have not seen Carolina do that pretty much at all this year.
Open date, made progress.
Do it, but
hey, I'm going to hop over to the glass half full side. Well, it's not half full. There's like an ounce in there.
Yeah, there's a little bit left.
It was dry as a bone last week. Okay. All right. So there's an ounce. It's an ounce.
Got a little backwash in there.
There's a little backwash in there. There's a little line stricken down the side of the glass there with some of that backwash. So I'm on the backwash side. Backwash in a glass. That's where I'm taking that position. I'm just saying this is what has to happen. So I'm trying to envision it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Max can dink his dunk his way down the field. Does the line protect him? Can they handle? I think Cal's got good linebackers, like I said. There's some good players over there. They're going to be well schemed. I think the Bears were off too. They're playing them on an open day.
Yeah, they had a bye week as well. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Clemson was ready to rock. Trick oration out of the gate, touchdown. Cal knows that there's some things Carolina's been susceptible to. The DB's biting on some stuff, so we'll see.
You know what? Let me give you this real quick, because this is actually, and this is in a way is kind of an indictment of where this program is unfortunately at right now under Bill Belichick. I would love for Carolina to go out there and play a good game and give us something different to talk about. I really would. A lot of people sitting here do not believe me because I'm sitting here being like, well, there's not a lot of positives I can point to.
We want the people listening that watch us regularly, the people that pay hard-earned money to subscribe to our site, TarHeal247.com, was what, $10-11 a month. I want everybody to be happy.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't sit there and come on, Jordan, make the catch. I don't sit there and think, come on, RJ, make the shot. That I can't cover the game and do that. But I want our audience, I want our subscribers, I want the people who are so passionate about Carolina that they spend time on content like ours, and there's other content that they pay attention to as well. I want you guys to be happy. I'm related to a lot of these people.
Me too.
One of them is my dad, who lettered in 2 sports at Carolina and was president of the Monogram Club. I get it. I don't enjoy having the conversations with him about the team when it's just, he's 91. He's utterly miserable about it. Mm-hmm. And he's seen some really bad football. He came into school after the choo-choo era, and they were really bad. It's like, damn it, it's like it was when I was in school.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people I want to see happy. I want to have something different to talk about, and to not be forced to turn the game off at 11:10 Friday night.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you and I are both in accord there, and you have family members that love the place as well.
My dad's been a season ticket holder for 15 plus years. And this is one thing that frustrates me, is because I've had people on social media recently say, but you're just loving every bit of this team sucking. And I'm like, first and foremost, you've never met me before. You have no idea what my opinion is, so you're just making stuff up. First, I mean, that's like, let's just start there first and foremost. I don't even know who this person is or these people
are. You're a hater, Jacob. Come on, just acknowledge.
But this is the thing, though, AJ, is like, you almost feel like at times in our where I'm at and where you are at sometimes, it's almost like you can't win. Because if I was to go online and be like, man, everything's rosy in the Keenan Football Center, man. Everything's fantastic, swell up in there. People are going to be like, what are you talking about? You're an idiot. But if I go on there and you kind of tell it how it is, of like, man, this thing's been a train wreck. You got some people that are like, man, you are a negative hater. And it's like, guys, I don't really know what you want me to say. You have to kind of call it how you see it, man. And I say all this to say, this is where I'm leading to, AJ. The number one thing I'm looking for on Friday night is this. Does this look like a team that's still together? Does this look like a team whose body language is improved? We've talked a lot about body language. One of my favorite things John Gruden talks about, you guys know John Gruden, former NFL coach, Super Bowl winner with the Bucs. One thing he talks about and harps on all the time is bad body language teams. Carolina, for most of this season, and I can understand why when you look at the performances against P4 teams, body language has been bad. So when I see everything that kind of came out last week, and you had players, let's not forget this, AJ, there are some players that are on Twitter like, hey, guys, stick with us. We're going to figure this thing out. So the number one thing that I'm looking for on Friday night, there's other things I'll be looking for too. Can they pass the ball more? Who starts at quarterback? Can the offensive line protect? All those things matter. Yeah. But first and foremost,
we have to evaluate the game.
Yeah, absolutely. But first and foremost, does this look like a team that's ready to play, still together, and is the body language better? Those are the things that I want to tangibly see improvements on, because if it doesn't start there, AJ, if I can't look at this team and see better body language and see a team that looks like it's a little more excited and up to play and together still, despite all this stuff going on, and all this stuff about can they move the ball down the field and can the offensive line block, none of that matters, because it's not going to happen. This team, first and foremost, needs to show signs that there is still life in this program, and that, hey, guys, like some of these players have said on Twitter, stick with us. We're going to figure this out. But it has to start there. At the very bare minimum, we have to see that on Friday night from minute one. And you could probably tell in warmups. I mean, I'll be looking forward to seeing what maybe you look on the boards, because you can tell some of those things sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. Now, I do think that you're going to have pretty good togetherness when they run out of the tunnel. To me, the question is, how does this team deal with adversity? The defense has admittedly not dealt with adversity well. They look around. Who's going to kind of corral this thing? Who's going to make the play? Max Slogan be the one? Who's going to be the one to make a play to end this? Right?
There's a lot of sorry to interrupt. We've seen this a lot too when things have kind of gone wrong defensively. A lot of heads down. Not a lot of guys picking each other up and kind of, hey guys, we can do this. It's a lot of like the amount of times I've seen maybe a corner get beat and the other receiver makes a big catch. And it's kind of like the guys just kind of walk back to the play. It's not like, hey guys, we're still in this. A lot of hyping each other up. That's what I mean by kind of poor body language sometimes when you watch this team.
Yeah, and let me comment on one other thing just so people understand what you were saying about the comments that we get. If you don't want to be criticized, if you don't want to be a target sometimes, don't get in front of a mic and a camera and do what we do.
Yeah, not a great idea.
Don't get in front of a keyboard and write what we write. That's part of the deal. We understand that. That's why on our site, TarHeal247.com, the largest site covering North Carolina with a massive, passionate message board, a lot of critics there. And I meet the critics head on, and I always thank them for expressing themselves, because if you disagree with us, that's fine. Nobody is loved by everybody. Nobody, okay? I'm sure Mother Teresa had her detractors as well. Not, of course, that we're Mother Teresa. She's a trillion times better human being than I could ever imagine being. But I make it a point, obviously. So we like when people voice their opinions.
As long as it's not personal or hateful. That's when I draw a line a little bit.
And I also will get on people if it's not based in reality.
That too, yeah.
We had a guy who commented something last week about we said about Caleb Wilson. I thought was thoroughly disgusting. And I went there in the thread on YouTube and said, this is the most disgusting thing anybody's ever said about me.
And rightly so. That people like that deserve to be called out. Absolutely.
And I will jab back sometimes. I have no problem doing that, but at the same time, I'm cool with people expressing themselves. I think when you're covering a team that's in the situation the football program's in right now, and at times with basketball the last few years, sometimes we kind of provide people a punching bag that they need.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
we're an outlet. We're relief. We give them something that they can leave their regular life and come into for a while for whatever reason. And if the football team gives them tremendous frustration and stress and unhappiness, if they got to unload by firing a jab to us every once in a while, that's part of the purpose that we serve. But just understand that if you do it, try to do it based in some reality. That would be a lot better. It'd be a much easier discourse, but I don't have any problem with it. People got to, especially people on our site that pay money, if they disagree, tell me why you disagree, because I can always learn. Yeah. I'm always learning. And I do ask questions. We come on here and we ask people, tell us what they think. On the board, I ask questions every once in a while. I want to know what people think. And I think that makes for healthy discourse. I think being in the media, as long as I have, it's really been important to me to stay connected to a world outside of the media, because it can be really easy to just get so insulated in the middle of the media world that you kind of lose touch with what the chatter is outside that. And a lot of people just disregard it completely. And someone thought I was doing that with something earlier. And no, I could go down that hole. But my point is that happens a lot. I try very hard to never get too deep into that media world where I can't hear or see or feel the vibe outside of that world, which is one of the reasons why we open comments on here.
100%. Yeah. It's totally fine to disagree. That is expected. That's freedom of speech. We of course, that would be crazy. It'd be you know how insane it would be if we hopped on here and said, stop disagreeing with us. That's totally fine. And
it would be North Korea.
Yeah, exactly. The thing that, like I said earlier, the place where I draw the line is when it becomes personal, or when it's very hateful, or when it's like, throwing accusations at someone when you don't know somebody. That's the stuff that kind of frustrates me, because that to me crosses the line a little bit. It's okay to disagree, but you don't have to be an a-hole about it and make it personal. You know what I mean? But that's just good for everything. That's not just sports. That's anything in life. You know what I mean?
I don't go tell my wife. I did tell my wife by the one guy that said after the Caleb Wilson stuff, I was like, I can't believe someone would say something like that.
Yeah, and rightly so. It's crazy.
But other than that, if they make it personal, I've had people that I've met that told me later that, man, I trashed you on this and trashed you on that. And you're like, hey, thanks for the comment. Then I meet him. They're like, yeah, can I have your number? Can I
I've had that happen too. Yeah.
So I did a selfie in a Wegmans market one time with a guy who saw me, and we started talking. He said, man, I used to hate you. And now he's getting a selfie, and there's like eggs behind us at a Wegmans.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah.
That's great. I think that's awesome because, he paid attention enough. Kudos to him for not just making a decision saying, screw it, I'm not going back to that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, people's opinions can change. That's kind of that's a healthy way to go about living your life. You know what I mean? So let's end it with this. AJ. Prediction. What's your prediction for Saturday? What do you think is going to happen? I know we spent a lot of time talking about the program, where it's at, looking at the game a little bit, but at the end of the day, what do you think is going to happen on Friday night? I keep saying Saturday because
I haven't done my staff picks yet, and I haven't looked at what y'all have done.
I can't remember what I sent in either. I'm going to go. I'll go look real quick while you talk.
You did your Sunday. That's the earliest.
To be fair, you said get him in Monday, and I was like, I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to get in early.
And if you're Felder and you're paying attention, get your damn pick in, man. Come on.
It takes 30 seconds, Felder. Come on, man. I gotta look.
I mean, I don't think they're going to win.
I said 31-14, Cal. Just
the spread started at 13.5 and went to 9.5. I haven't explored why. Haven't had time. Boy, I'll tell you, 9.5. I don't bet anymore. I told you the last time I ever bet on something was the first time I covered a game. And I was like, I can't do this. So I haven't betted on anything since then.
I've dabbled in it. Then I realized I absolutely suck at it. And I just stopped doing it. I got tired of losing money.
Giving your money to some Guido. That's all.
I got tired of losing money. I'll be honest with you.
I think Cal's going to win by 3 touchdowns.
Okay. That's kind of the same.
I don't think Cal's going to score a lot. 28-7, something like that.
Okay. And I think that goes back to the whole, one of the biggest kind of messages of the podcast is like, based on the body of evidence that we have, it's very difficult to come on here and say Carolina is not only going to beat Cal, but even keep it close and be somewhat competitive throughout the game. Because guess what, guys? We haven't seen it this year. Now, if that goes and happens, Carolina wins on Saturday, or they're competitive and they barely lose and they put together a really good game plan, you see a team that's still together and a better body language, everything like that, then maybe the narrative shifts as you go into the Virginia game and the Syracuse. You start to say, okay, now maybe they can do something. But based on what we know right now, it's just really hard to come on here and think they're going to make a 2,800-mile trip out west and beat California all of a sudden. And Cal's not a great football team. I just can't see it happening right now. But I would love to be proven wrong. I really would be.
Cross-country trips have been struggles for a lot of the teams, although it wasn't for Duke. I can't wait to get there. Can't wait to be in Berkeley, go in that stadium and do my thing. I absolutely have a deep passion for it. And however they play and what they say about it, that's what we're going to cover. I'll be in Salt Lake City the following Friday for the exhibition basketball game against BYU. I will not be at the Virginia football game. I was hoping it would be a night game. My flight lands at 2:30 that Saturday. Excuse me. So we're going to have Noah holding down the fort, and we've got some great interns, Jarvis Hicks and Ellie Bowman, new interns. Riken Fuller has been with us since August, has done a phenomenal job. Boy, he's done a really good job. I love all 3 of these guys. They have futures in this business, and we're so grateful to have them aboard. So they're all going to be holding down the fort. I may bring someone in to assist. Not sure. I was thinking about asking the avocado to come help out some. But I don't know if the press box wants to deal with that. I know
exactly who you're talking about.
I would only do that if Bob Sutton is certain to be at that game covering it too, because it would make Bob's month.
I love
the avocado shirt was in the press box.
All you said was avocado.
So it's just a heads up to everybody. I will be in Berkeley. I will be in Salt Lake City. I will be in Syracuse. I will not be at the Virginia game because the plane can only fly so fast.
Yeah, that's very true. Me and I think it'll probably end up being me and Noah on 3 things after the Virginia game.
And I'm taping the game. I'll come home and I'll say, hey, Kim, hey, Ellie, 10 minutes, take my luggage upstairs, watch the game. I'll bang something out that night, do a podcast as well. So
back to the grind, baby. Back to the grind. Yeah, a lot of travel coming up for you, man, but you love it. Yeah, I don't know why I said back to the I meant back to the grind 5 minutes after you get off the plane.
The good thing is we're going full circle back to the beginning of the podcast. At least I have no connections to and from San Francisco.
That's
I looked at flights into Oakland because Oakland's right next to Berkeley. Mm-hmm. The San Fran airport's much further away, but trying to find the right time to get in there based on other obligations and everything else. I mean, one of the trips had me going into Sacramento. I have to rent a car and drive down from Sacramento. It's not too terribly far, but it's just not doable. So I'm flying into San Fran, no connections, direct flight, renting a car, and I'm staying in Vallejo, which is just north of. Yeah, it sounds like a great place, but it could be a dump. Who knows? But it's north of Cam. It's about 12 miles north of Berkeley.
I think the only thing I know about Vallejo is
I've been to Bay Area 5 or 6 times, but I've never been to Vallejo. I've been to Berkeley, obviously, been to Oakland a lot of times. One of the best man at my wedding, and I was the best man at his wedding. He lives in Marin County. Sausalito, really? Sausalito to be exact.
Oh, nice little Sausalito action. Okay, that's
Sausalito's great.
Yeah, but that's a nice place.
You can sit in Sausalito and look at the bay and see weather patterns come and go.
Yeah, the only thing I know about Vallejo is
you're looking it up, so you don't know anything.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'm trying to make sure what I'm thinking of. It's a great point, by the way. I think that's where this is nothing to do with football. Exact opposite, really. But I think that's where the Golden State Killer. I think he had some stuff going on.
There's a crap load of serial killers from that region.
I know. There was one. I think the Golden State Killer, the one they ended up catching a few years ago. They found
Dirty Harry, man. And then Dirty Harry.
What's that?
Do you feel lucky?
Oh, yeah.
Chomp it on the hot dog.
I think
and then the best part, he says, I got to know. If you have not seen Dirty Harry,
obviously Dirty
watch it before the game. Watch it at some point. You know what? My bride's watching Dirty Harry tonight.
Oh, fantastic.
In honor of me going out to the Bay Area, we're going to watch Dirty Harry.
Got to. I think that's the only way to do it. Let me know in the comments.
Got to get an Eastwood fix in. But, that is it's a crazy area. It's an absolutely gorgeous area.
Oh, I can imagine.
If you go out there and you have some time, walk the Golden Gate Bridge. I've done it a few times. I'd walked the Golden Gate Bridge. I'll never forget. It was June 10th, 2006. And it's like 54 degrees and the wind's blowing. And I froze my rear end off.
Oh, I bet you did.
And walked one end to the other. And they have suicide hotline phones all over the place. And they make it very, very. And then if you look over into the water, the current is, first of all, the water is really cold. It's got a ton of sharks, and the currents are like all over the place. I don't know how anybody can survive. And that's where the escape from Alcatraz thing comes from. Those guys escaped, and they weren't sure if they survived or not. So they had to close it down.
Carly went to San Francisco before I met her, probably about 6-7 years ago now, with one of her best friend, a couple of her best friends, and absolutely loved it, man. She's in San Francisco is awesome.
It's a really weird place.
Yeah, she did say it was a little weird.
Driving
but
sucks. Driving sucks there. I grew up in D.C., so I know all about driving sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some places in this country where driving is horrible. D.C., San Francisco, Los Angeles is brutal.
Don't forget, AJ. Don't forget I-40 at about 5 o'clock on a weekday, aka every time you're leaving the press conference.
Yeah, trying to get out. It literally. I live 32 miles, door to door to the Dean Dome. Okay.
And you're on an interstate for what, 90% of that?
I'm on an interstate for at least 90% of it. And when I come home, I'll stay there and get a ton of work done. And they're cool letting me stay there and get a lot of work done. Because if I walked out at like 4:45, I wouldn't get home till 7 o'clock.
It's amazing.
But I could walk out at 6:15 and get home at 7:10.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. That tells you all you need to know. Yeah, I was about to say, you talked about tough places to drive. I'm like, don't discredit I-40 at about 5 o'clock on a weekday, because that place.
Charlotte could be like Atlanta. I despise.
I made that drive with you, AJ. That is one of my least favorite drives I've ever been on. Not because I was with you. It was very enjoyable. I heard a lot of great stories with you. That was a fantastic car ride to hear about a lot of that stuff. But you talk about a drive that it's like, dude, if we've been in this car for like 16 hours.
I got a speeding ticket coming back, remember?
I think you did, yeah. And we ended up staying in Augusta, which is about an hour.
If there was an ACC review crew, the speeding ticket would not have been upheld.
No, it was absolutely a horrendous ticket. Do you remember, too, on the way down there, we got to Augusta, there was like this like semi-truck like on fire on the side of a highway. Like the apocalypse had just started. I was like, what am I getting into up here?
Okay, avocado shirt, Brett Friedlander. He could tell this story. It'd be great if we had him on here. She'd do
We'll get him on. We'll get him on at some point.
But Bruce Young was on the trip too when he was our photographer. It was 2006. It was the Nick Weiler game when Carolina won at Florida State. Right? Yeah. So there were no hotels in Tallahassee, and because Brett wanted to go down there and Bruce wanted to go, Bruce was on my staff. I wasn't going to fly him down there. Brett wanted to go. So we rode. We drove down there. We stayed in Valdosta. When we went to a high school football game at Valdosta that night, there was like 15,000 fans. It was where Valdosta State plays ball, and it was awesome. It was like a little tiny high school SEC atmosphere. It was great. So our hotel, we were staying at a Hampton Inn in Valdosta. And that morning, we're like, well, where are all these football players from Savannah State here for? The Savannah State football team had a game at Florida A&M the next day. They stayed in Valdosta. So we go to breakfast. There's like an IHOP or something almost in the parking lot. We're in there at breakfast, and Brett's like, good effing, whatever. They're practicing in the parking lot. So we go back to the hotel, and the Savannah State football team is running pregame walkthrough practice stuff in the freaking parking lot. And we were told by the person at the front desk that they asked if they can get people to move their cars to the other side of the hotel parking lot so they can use that whole side there without cars being in the way.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That was beautiful. I think they got romped.
I was about to say, did they win?
I think FAMU romped them the next day.
Yeah, if you're warming, if you're going through walkthroughs in a hotel parking lot, like you're probably not at the college level. Probably.
I've got pictures. I'll send you. I've got pictures. Man alive, I took like 12 pictures of them.
I bet you did. I could see you.
You know what? I think we tweeted them out too.
You probably did.
How can you? Okay, I'm going to go. Keep talking. I'm going to go back.
Yeah, keep talking. We're going to get out of here after AJ finds his photo because we've been talking.
It takes me 11 hours to scroll and find photos. I get a workout doing this.
Yeah. You could. I was going to say you could maybe search like parking lot, but that's probably not going to help you out. But
here we go. Well, I'm back in Philadelphia in 2016 at the regionals.
Got the sun setting on me over here, by the way.
Got my wife and daughter and me at an Orioles game in 2016. That was great. Come on now. I got to find these guys.
Didn't help at all.
There's Gerard. There's the Georgia Dome for the Georgia game. I'm getting closer.
There you go. You're getting there.
Illinois, when I was at Illinois for football. Here's the high school game we went to.
Make sure you get your score predictions in the comments below, by the way.
You know what?
Make sure you like, share, subscribe as well. I can get all this out of the way before we.
Yeah, I think I deleted the damn photos.
You did get a new phone. Who knows? Maybe they didn't.
This is a divot. If you can see it, where the ball was, where the tee was, when Nick Weiler kicked the field goal.
You would have a freaking picture of that, man.
We had to walk across the field to get to the.
You would have a picture of that.
Yeah, I got Sod Cemetery. They played Carolina that day, and they put the ribbon around the cemetery. That's from the '97 game.
That might be the most AJ thing I've ever heard. He has a picture on his phone of Nick Weiler's divot. That is just, hey, AJ, that is capital J journalism, all caps journalism.
Maybe we should do a show where I just pull out photos from games.
Yeah, just like a PowerPoint presentation we just walk through of all your favorite photos of the years.
Yeah. Here's you want me to do a few more before we go?
Yeah, give us a couple more. We'll wrap it up.
Here's the Hurricane game. Here's the Hurricane game against Virginia Tech that year.
Oh, my dad was at that game. I think I had something going on. Maybe I was.
I've got a few more good ones here. I've got Tucker Beauregard McLaughlin Jr. on a few of these.
Rest in peace, man. Rest in peace, Tucker.
For some reason, I thought a guy in Miami with a Gino Torretta jersey was good, so I took a picture of that. I've got no earthly idea why. Let's see. Here you go. So Carolina, when they lost to Duke on a Thursday night in football, 2016, Mitch threw an interception. The next day they opened the basketball season at Tulane. They played in the yogurt center or whatever the hell it's called there, right? So I had to fly in the next morning. The true story. So I'm sitting in the window seat, and there's a guy that's next to me. It's maybe a 2-seater on that side. And there's a guy that's completely hammered. This is 6:30 in the morning. I didn't sleep after finishing coverage from the football game. I didn't sleep. I just went to the airport like 5 o'clock. This guy is completely hammered, and he sees me walking down the aisle that I'm in. And he's like, "You're not a pretty lady." Well, no, I'm not pretty anything other than annoying maybe sometimes. But I sit down, and he keeps talking about how I'm not a pretty lady. He was hoping a pretty lady would sit next to him, and the alcohol just reeks, right? Eventually, they have security come down and remove him from the plane. We fly to New Orleans. I get in, I check in, 2-hour nap. Then I go to some place, alligator nuggets.
Oh, so that's you like at the state fair right there, man. I've had some alligator nuggets at the state fair, but that's about it.
Well, it was the second time I had alligator there, but so I could go on and on and on. There's some very interesting things in here.
I wonder how many people are still listening.
Nobody.
Over or under 15.
Here's a beer I had in Las Vegas the night before Carolina, Kentucky, in that epic CBS Sports Classic game.
Take a picture of that. I still can't.
Well, I said to my wife, I always take a picture. I rarely do that, but I take a picture and send to my wife. Here's a bunch of people in casinos. That's really fun stuff. Okay, here you go.
You got a picture of Nick Weiler's divot.
Here's the Kentucky Carolina game, 2016 CBS Sports Classic. You got Isaiah Hicks right there. You got Luke May, Justin Jackson, and that's Nate Britt coming up defensively. That was a great game.
I remember
that's one of the best regular. Yeah. That was one of the best neutral. That was the best neutral site regular season game I've ever covered. As far as atmosphere, the atmosphere was incredible for that. It's
pretty high scoring, wasn't
it? Yeah. Oh, here's this. I took a picture of Dina King with Kennedy Meeks after a game at Wake Forest. Was that the shining moment of my career or what?
Somehow we've managed to get Dina King and Kennedy Meeks on this podcast, but we have found a way. It's supposed to be a California football preview show. We've got Dina King references.
Here's security 2017 Greenville when they moved it from North Carolina to the NCAA tournament. This is security at the media entrance.
Staring you down.
She's sound asleep.
That's fantastic.
Anybody can just walk in and out. This was on the in-between day, not a game day.
That's fantastic.
Sound freaking asleep.
All right, AJ, give us one more photo so we're not on here for another 65 minutes. Give us one more.
All right.
End it with a bang. I don't think it can be better than Nick Weiler's divot. Honest to God, I don't think you can find a better picture than that. I still can't believe it. That's fantastic. That is awesome. That is
Tucker
so great.
On a media shuttle.
There we go.
Tucker on a media shuttle, Final Four 2017. Ding, ding, ding. Winner, winner, winner.
That's a winner right there, man. Rest in peace, Tucker.
5 minutes later, Tucker is asleep on the media shuttle.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I'm glad we got Tucker in there. Tucker, Dina, Kennedy Meeks references all in our California.
Oregon dance team. Got them at the Final Four and the bowl game, right? I did that.
True. Forgot about the bowl game that year. You're right.
Ross Martin sleeping on the media shuttle.
Oh, not the Ross Martin shout. Is that a 247 hat on him?
24/7 hat.
Look at him in the 247 hat right there. 24/7.
I could go. We'll do a podcast where I just go through my phone. We'll get 9 views on it, and there'll be 7 people blasting us in the
It'll
comments.
Be a couple of me just making sure the video went live right. So I'll be like a couple of those views just to make sure it's playing correctly. So yeah, about 10.
Here's
maybe.
My daughter looking up at the Eddie Murray statue at Camden Yards.
That's fantastic. You should hang that in the office somewhere.
You know what my I think it's my screensaver for this is my daughter with Eddie Murray statue.
Oh yeah. I think I've seen that picture before.
I'm not even sure, to be honest with you. I don't even know. Oh, one last thing.
All right, he's giving us one more. He's already given us 6 more after we said one more.
Warning in advance. Turn away. If you can't handle it, turn away. Old Dominion, before they rebuilt the stadium, Larry took a team to Old Dominion, beat the crap out of them in 2017, suffered a bunch of knee injuries, right? They had a terrible field, awful stadium, and all that. It's all
pretty good right now, by the way.
Yeah, and they are, and it's good. They've redone everything. They've put a lot of money into it. It's a good situation now. There was one restroom in the press box.
That could have been worse. That picture could have been worse. Could have been so much worse. That wasn't too bad. I was a little scared to see what you were doing.
Tucker, press box, Keenan Stadium, holding 2 slices of pizza. God rest his soul, man.
God rest his soul, man.
One of the most beautiful people, literally, of all time. Oh,
rest in peace, Tucker.
No, this is
a little Larry Fedora action in there.
Before the beard.
Oh, nice. A little Larry before the beard. Okay.
Yeah, before the beard.
A little early Larry.
Yeah, a little early Larry. Anyway, guys, I can go on and on and on. This is probably boring the hell out of anybody. Well, actually, if you're still watching, you're probably not that bored.
Yeah, if you're still watching, you're somewhat infatuated by it. I mean, it's like.
Here's Luke May at Stanford. That was the Kenny Williams thing.
Yep.
When Kenny Williams said, a ton of threes early.
Yeah.
And then Jalek Felton had the dunk that Roy had to apologize for afterward.
Yeah.
That was a Monday night. That was an 11 p.m. start Eastern, and I was at football practice the next day. You
know what? I'm going to end it with this. If your team's getting blown out in basketball, you shouldn't get mad if someone dunks on it. I don't want all these apologies, man. Like, if you lose by 40 in basketball, you shouldn't have lost by 40.
Yeah.
And maybe if it's like a Division II team, small team, okay, fine. But if you're Stanford, you come all the way across the country and you're getting ramped, like, don't apologize for that, man. Like,
this was the game at Stanford.
Oh, I know. You should have been better.
They did it in their building, so I understand.
I'm half joking right there. You got to respect. That's a respectful thing to do. But you know what? If you're a Division I team, you get blown out by 30. Don't be mad if someone dunks it with 2 seconds left. It's fine.
Yeah. Stanford's arena was not really impressive. There it is. They made us sit all the way at the top.
I love it. All right, AJ.
Sitting next to Andrew Carter. Sitting next to Andrew Carter. We're all squeezed in. We had to like climb over people essentially to get to our spot to cover the game. And he turns to me. He's like, "What am I doing here?"
Little did you know they would be in the conference some 7 years later. No
conference game.
6 years later. Yep.
Conference game, baby.
Perfect way to end it. End it with a Stanford photo as AJ prepares tomorrow to head on out to California for an ACC All-Coast Conference matchup.
I got a bunch of Cal football photos. If I would have gone another 3 minutes, I would have found them.
Oh, God, yeah, we'd be here for another hour. I'm in and out, AJ. I'm in and out. For all the 4 people watching right now, we appreciate you guys for sticking with us the whole time.
I would give some away, but I can't give comps right now, so I can't give you a comp. So let us know.
Pat yourself on the back if you made it this far, and go do, for the love of God, if you made it this far, go do something else. Stop listening.
If you do that, we'll read your name on the next one. How about that?
Yeah. Get involved in the comments. We'll shout you out on the next one. All right, guys. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. A record-long edition of the UNC football preview show. Appreciate everybody watching. Get involved in the comments. Let us know what you think's going to happen on Friday night and about this whole Bill Belichick tenure so far. I want to hear from you guys as always, and we will see y'all next time. Thanks.